Welcome to our deck tech for Locklock in Retro. Since there's going to be retro side events at each of the 3 nationals, we decided that it's a good idea to have a look at some My Hero characters in the retro format and give some of the newer players a starting place. So I guess I should start with a wee disclaimer. I don't really have much experience with the first 5 Jasko sets. I still think the deck's going to be pretty strong given that the freeze mechanic hadn't been introduced in those sets anyway. You'll see eventually why we've chosen all over order, despite order giving us effectively 2 different versions of indiscriminate. So if you're not familiar with the character, Locklock, 6 hand size, 27 health, and has a response twice per turn. After your non-ranged attack deals damage, you get to freeze 1 rival foundation. In addition, it cannot ready until the start of your next turn, which is a nice little add-on since the easiest way to get around freeze is just ready the foundation with an additional effect somehow. The other response is after the rival's combat phase begins, we get to draw a card for each of their committed foundations. As a minimum, you're looking to draw 2, since that's you getting off both the twice per turn, but you'll quickly see that we can do a few more in this deck. So we're running 5 actions, 2 copies of Let's Cut Loose and 3 copies of Deadbolt. Let's Cut Loose is a solid card, it's a 3/6, you enhance with it from hand to add 1 foundation from your discard pile to your hand, or it allows you to build a foundation that's in your card pool. And on top of this, you also draw a card, so worst comes to worst, you can fire a Let's Cut Loose, pick up any foundation and draw a card if you need to. But we'll be ideally looking to use it to shore up some block zones. Even though Let's Cut Loose doesn't have a block itself, it allows us to pick up any block we need, as long as we have it on a foundation in our discard pile. In addition to that, we're running quite a few one-offs, so this will allow us to recur the tech pieces we need for that matchup. I was on the fence with Deadbolt since it's a 5 difficulty action, and if you check bad, you might not even want to come in that turn. But thanks to the first form interacting with our response to draw cards, even if you check bad, it means you're still guaranteed the 2 at minimum when it goes to your rival's turn. Also gives us a little bit of anti-asset stuff, and since we're Locklock, it will get discarded from the pool when we play it. Might require some additional testing to see if the number's right, but I feel as though free's the sweet spot for this card. Asset wise, we're running 4, 2 copies of the champ card Fiddlesticks, and 2 copies of Cormorant. Fiddlesticks is going to be beneficial to allow us to recur cards from more momentum. Just think of it as a repeatable celebrity status. Not only that, it also has a way for us to draw the card if we're completely pushed and we don't have any other draw options. Since hopefully we're going to be drawing additional cards in each of our rivals' turns, I wanted to be able to empty our hand but still have a bit of defense. So Cormorant seems perfect for this. We can build it and use it as an emergency block when we need it. Moving on to our attack package, we're running 4 copies each of our 5 attacks that are in the main board. So starting us off, we've got Lightning Fang. It's a 4 difficulty 3 low for 5, with charge, stun 1 and weapon. The stun 1's going to be beneficial since Locklock doesn't commit cards, it only freezes them. And talking about freezing, if this attack isn't completely blocked, we get to freeze one of our rivals' committed foundations. So this is just giving us a little bit of extra freeze, which means that we get to draw more. This is before considering the fact the Deadlock key could be relevant in long games. To further help facilitate our response and being able to freeze foundations, we're running a full set of Stakeout. Now on the whole, a 4 high for 3 damage attack doesn't seem like much, but thanks to the enhanced that causes your opponent to lose life equal to the attack's stun rating, it's effectively 4 high 5, and then being able to pump its own stun rating by discarding 1 momentum makes it like 4 high 7 with stun 4. If you calculate the stun as speed since you're taking those resources off your opponent, you're looking at an 8 high for 7 for the cost of 1 momentum. I just feel like Stakeout's a solid choice in either the order or the all build for this character. Moving on, Mayfield's Assault is just a 3 low for 4 damage attack. The first E could be relevant, there's quite a few cards nowadays that flip themselves as cost, and discarding 2 momentum to stun 5, stun 6 is definitely going to be worth it. The all enhance here is probably the main reason we're running it. We get to pick up the top card of our discard pile. If you check well when playing this, you're likely picking up a foundation. If you check bad, you're getting to pick up an attack. But the deck does have some ways to mitigate what's going to be in the top of our discard pile, so this can be more flexible than it seems. Right, so this is our reason for being all. I'm going to butcher this name, but Ice Dragon Siryu
Ice Dragon Siryu
is a 5 difficulty punch ranged stun 3 attack. It also checks a 2. Instantly you're going to be like, Murray, we don't want to be playing ranged attacks, we don't want to be playing 2 checks, but trust me, this card's worth it. So we have stun 3, enhance that lets us discard momentum to get +1 more check for each of our rivals' committed foundations. But the main reason we're running this is this enhance to freeze all foundations committed due to this attack's stun ability. Assuming your rival has no interaction, that's 3 additional cards you get to draw next turn, not to mention making this harder to block in the first place. Dream case scenario, we're either going to be drawing into more of these with our response commit, or we're going to be using fiddlesticks to recover them from momentum. We're limited by the amount of attacks that can freeze foundations by themselves, so I decided to put in a playset of locked up as well. 4 mid for 4 on a 5 difficulty attack isn't great, but it's got stun 2 effectively over 2 separate enhances. If it deals damage, we get to freeze 1 foundation committed by the stun ability. The enhance to get +1 speed for each committed rival foundations is probably one of the weaker momentum spenders we have, but it's still worth it in a pinch. So I've broken our foundations into 3 parts here. We have our spam, we have our 2-ofs and our 1-ofs. So kicking off the spam, we have a full playset of It Can't Be Fixed. So you should all be familiar with It Can't Be Fixed. We want to be committing other people's boards, we don't particularly want them committing ours. I think you'd be hard pushed to find something as a spam that's better than this, especially in the early game when you want to be developing your board. We're a bit low on mid blocks, so I'm running a full suite of arranging a deal. It's a 1-6, it has Desperation, E, which is if we're below half our maximum health, E flip, draw a card. But the +2 mid block's nice as well. And finishing off with 4 of spam, we have a full playset of Feifei. It's a 1-5 that E flips for -3 speed. We're running 3 copies of Marrying Age, since it answers one of the biggest problems our deck can face. Sure, Locklock says the foundation can't ready until the start of your next turn, but other freeze effects won't do that, so your rival can still ready the card using other means. This just gives us a little bit of punishment for doing so. Either we get to ready a card in our staging area when they do, or if we can't ready a card in our staging area due to this ability, we can put a foundation we can normally play from our hand into our staging area. Since we're going to be drawing additional cards, we might have foundations in hand we don't mind dumping into play. Onto our last spam, and it's never a day without training. Another low block and another source of draw. At E flips, we can discard a card, draw a card, but if we have one or more assets, we can flip it to draw a card instead. Moving on to our 2-ofs, we're running Armor Expert. The response commit after you're dealt damage by an unblocked attack, draw a card is fine, it's not outstanding but can give us a bit of draw in a panic situation. The main reason we're running these is to punish people that aren't playing deadlock effects. The top enhance might read like a deadlock ability where you're going to punish your rival for having more than 10 foundations, but ideally if we end up in deadlock we can use this to abuse the game a little bit. Since it forces players with more than 10 foundations to put a foundation on top of their deck, we can start debuilding more committed foundations to guarantee that we're going to get good checks or be able to draw into block modifiers that we need. Just watch out for your rival's deadlock abilities. Moving on to Rhythmic Fight Style. This is here mostly as throw tech and to tech against other cards that will always deal half damage, but this is another card that we can abuse to make the game go in our favour. If you think your rival is just coming in for a poke, you can use this enhanced commit just to get rid of one attack in their deck. Sensor Morals is our backup stun hit, also allows us to manipulate the top card of our discard pile a little bit. If you're not familiar with this 4+ at the side of the enhanced cost, that requires you making a check that is equal to 4 or greater. You can still commit foundations to help you pass this check. If we need to change the top card of our discard pile, we can just use this enhance for no effect. It is worth noting that this enhance has been errated to be once per turn. Moving on, we have Telekinetic Mastery. Not only does this give us a bit of anti-discard tech, but it allows us to turn more foundations into commit for -2 speed or commit for -2 damage. After your rival increases a stat on their attack, you then get to make a check against difficulty 6. Statistically you'll check a 5, and then you can decide if you want to commit one foundation to give -2 speed or -2 damage. Moving on to Conduit of United Essence, we have a stun and flip deterrent. Thanks to this top order response, after one of our cards gets committed or flipped due to an effect, we can remove this to commit or flip one of our rival's assets or foundations. Note, since this is playable while committed, if we get hit with stun 1, we can commit the Conduit of United Essence, then use the ability. Not only can it flip problem cards for us, it gives us a little bit of tech against decks that will be clearing the card pool often, looking at characters like Froppy, Spike or Tacky. Daughter of the Bladed Rod lets us know what's coming next in our deck, and can put your opponent in some tricky situations. Anyone that's ever played Magic the Gathering and had Fact or Fiction resolved against them, is quite a similar feeling when someone reveals the top 3 cards of their deck with Daughter of the Bladed Rod. Rarely are we going to see such a bad situation that we can't utilise it somehow, thanks to the ways we can draw cards or manipulate the top of our deck. The Deadlock Enhance here rarely punishes your rival since it allows us to strip the key pieces out of their staging area. Lastly, for the 2-ofs, we have High Seas Adventure. If you've ever played Cheerleader, this is quite similar. It's just a 3-4 with no block, but doesn't have the momentum requirement. Moving on to our one-offs, so starting us off we have Secret History. It's a 2/5 and it has E, your attack, remove, discard 1 momentum, commit your opponent's character. These can be key in matchups against characters like Recovery Girl, Nomu, Stone Man, anyone with a great amount of defense built into their character card. Way of a True Warrior gives us a way to interact with our rivals' keywords. It may not seem like it does much for the cost, but when you're able to strip combo, powerful, multiple, even echo I guess nowadays, when you really need to, it can prove invaluable. Bebop Blues gives us some protection from action cards, and also punishes your rival for using the same ability 3 times on the same card. Can't underestimate how good of a deterrent this card can be when it's sitting in play. While we don't always want to take 5 damage to generate a momentum, Hacker Extraordinaire is there for the attacks to get through, or when we feel safe enough that we can use it just to get that extra leg up. The enhanced discard momentum to draw a card is perfectly fine by itself, but the bonus of being able to flip a rival's asset means that this card can have a dual function in our deck. Now it says this is a one-off section, but Curious Magnetism might look quite familiar to you, so I'm just going to jump to the next card and we'll talk about them both together. So Curious Magnetism and Spooky do functionally the same thing. The Curious Magnetism Enhance has a restriction making it only your rival's attack, while Spooky will do nothing if you use it on your own attack. So functionally they are the same card, just with a different block modifier, and if this card's good enough to be run as a 1-of, let's run it as a 2-of. The top response on Mortal Resurrection isn't something I've used often, but it does come up on occasion, especially when it's committed. It's mostly here for that bottom response that stops your rival from playing an ability that cancels your enhance or response. Just a nice little tech piece that answers situational problems that might come up. It's definitely a nice backup to something like your Bebop Blues. While we can only use half of the abilities on True Identity, being able to commit it for +1 to your checks for attacks this turn is pretty powerful, so definitely worth including. Finishing off the main deck we have Wandering Pirate, a foundation that readies at the beginning of our rival's combat phase, and when it readies or commits we get to ready another foundation that hasn't been readied yet. This means we get a bit more stun hate in the card, since when this one's committed we get to ready our best foundation that's committed. But also when it comes to our rival's turn, we get to ready this and another foundation. Wandering Pirate's a solid 1-of. So moving on to our sideboard, there's only 2 different cards here we haven't spoke about already in this video, so I'm going to focus on talking about those cards. Both of these are situational attacks that can prove beneficial in various matchups. If I didn't want the additional freeze, I'd have considered cutting Locked Up and running these 4 cards in its place. So starting us off with Reborn Seraphic Wing, the 5 difficulty 3 mid for 5 reversal that has a bonus if we're rivals at deadlock, but on play we get to commit one of our rivals' assets or foundations, and enhances won't be able to be cancelled during this attack. Enhances not being able to be cancelled during the attack might not matter so much for us. On play, committing down that one foundation or asset that's causing you trouble definitely warrants an inclusion for this card. Not only that, it's a reversal, so if we blocked our rival's attack and it didn't have the safe keyword, we can play this in their turn, which means there might be a situation where you can respond with Locklocks twice per turn in your rival's turn, while also being able to target commit that problem asset or foundation. A special mention here for Secret History, is you can use this reverse to commit your rival's character in their own turn, not only turning off defensive abilities when it gets to your turn, but probably also shutting down a few aggro characters in the process. So Conduit of United Essence can shut down the decks that are resolving around clearing cards from their card pool, but if you ever need additional support in this case, Shouken proves to be incredibly versatile. While we don't get the stun too, and discarding the momentum just to see one check isn't great, the response does a lot more than it says on the tin. So we end up in a situation where cards can't leave the rival's card pool or discard pile for the rest of the combat phase, so this can deny your rival paying some costs. Not only that, it interrupts abilities like Multiple that requires your rival discarding the momentum and then returning the number of momentum discarded to the card pool face down. Right, hopefully you've enjoyed this look at what Locklock can do in retro. Let us know in the comments what my hero character should have a look at next.